views and opinions expressed on Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio do not necessarily reflect or represent the views of Stingray Media, its staff, or contributors. Callers to the program accept full responsibility for the views expressed. The show host and affiliates are not liable for any statements made or any harm claimed. All callers to the program indemnify Straight Talk from all claims. Offensive, defamatory, or unlawful content will not be tolerated. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Now, here's Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio on Bobo 103.1.
And hello, K-Man, and welcome to another episode of Straight Talk here on Bobo 103.1 FM and simulcasting live over YouTube and Facebook under the key search word Straight Talk Radio Show. We're your hosts, Austin Harris.
And I'm Ellio Solomon, and welcome to Straight Talk, home for those who love to think. How are you today, Mr. Harris?
I'm well today, Mr. Solomon. I see we are
kind of matching
in the ballpark with each other today, matching-wise.
Because you got a little white in there and the black, right?
Yes, sir, I
White
do.
and black?
Yeah, there you go. I think this is the second time you've worn a straight white shirt.
Yeah.
Looking sharp.
Can
buddy.
be.
Looking sharp.
Yeah, thank you.
It was a hot one today, though, wasn't it?
Oh, Lord. Surface of the sun when I walked in here, it's like, you saw me. It took at least 30 minutes for me to try to cool down.
You need to cool down, indeed. You know, uncharacteristically, you wanted to stand right under the AC vent.
I know.
You know, you were saying, wait a minute, I don't feel anything.
I don't even feel anything coming out of there.
But you've cooled down since, though.
Yes.
Outstanding. Yeah, it was
Somebody's just chiming in now and they're saying, I don't know, it sounds like Ellio had a temper fit. Often saying he cooled down.
No, he was hot.
He was hot.
Physically
Real hot.
Real hot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it was a hot day today for certain. I think, was it 95, 96, high temperature, real feel, probably 107, 108.
Oh, my God.
You know, barely a whisper of breeze. And
this is going to give us an active hurricane season, I would imagine, Austin.
Well, you see, now there's a thing. You would think normally with the high heat index, it is conducive to hurricane development.
Right.
But this year, again, knock on wood, grateful for that Saharan dust, keeping that cyclone development to a minimum. I spoke to some folks in weather, not the National Weather Service, but some folks who are attached in the area, are arguably those perhaps in aviation.
Mm-hmm.
And they were saying that they didn't expect much activity to start developing until maybe September-ish. So maybe, I don't want to jinx it.
That's where we always get them.
But that's where, we always get them in September, October, November.
32, Gilbert, Ivan, in September.
Yeah, quite right. So, we're not out of the woods yet. And by all indication, again, given the heat waves that have been, not only affecting the Cayman Islands, but affecting the wider Caribbean region and arguably the globe. I mean, Florida was suffering from major heat wave issues and arguably all the way up to the UK. So anybody, again, who doesn't believe climate change is real, just go outside and tell me if you think it's surface of the sun and the sun got a little bit closer to the old planet Earth this year. Speaking of weather, regrettably, we are still waiting on the thunder showers that we have been promised by the National Weather Service now 4 times almost in a row. I didn't even bother going outside last night, but I was hopeful that, the 4th time might be the charm. But
you did encourage everyone out there listening to send you a text if they saw something. Or
I did.
I
said, listen, I didn't get a single text from East End to West Bay to North Side in between. Nobody messaged me, so I'm guessing nobody got thunder showers or rain across the Grand Cayman Island. And I will include the sister islands as well. We are broadcasting to Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. So again, if you happen to feel a thunder shower anywhere in the Cayman Islands, send me a text to 928-2562. So at least I can give some reporting that the National Weather Service got it right. And you're going to get another bite at the apple, the proverbial apple, again tonight. I said I wasn't going to do the weather anymore, but my colleague convinced me otherwise. He says, come on, getting it wrong is part of the fun, isn't it, Austin? So, yes, we isolated thunder showers are again, for the 5th time now, expected tonight, apparently due to a trough that is over the Northwest Caribbean. In addition, light winds. Let's see what the winds are supposed to be doing. We expect winds out of the east to northeast at 5 to 10 knots tonight, and sea state to be slight with wave heights of 1 to 3 feet. Temperature tonight expected to drop to a low of about 82 degrees. Currently, not in studio, but here on Godfrey Nixon Way, the outside temperature is about 89 degrees, but it says it feels like 105 degrees in the shade. So still another warm day in paradise, and absolutely a very warm day throughout the day today. And my colleague can certainly, as we say, he who feels it, and today he felt it, knows it. So there you go.
I can attest to that. It's hot outside.
It is hot outside. 38 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock, and got a great show lined up for you today. We're going to tell you about it in a few minutes. Normally, we like to reserve the first half hour to good news, but we will begin today on a somber note as we recognize the passing of Cayman's Carnival Queen and renowned local costume designer, our friend Reba Dilbert, the late now Reba Dilbert, as we understand, has passed away at the age of 71 following a extended bout of illness. I don't know the circumstances. I wish I could say that, you know, I'd stayed in active contact with Miss Reba, but for a while there when we fell off the radio, we really kind of lost touch a bit. But she's always in our heart, always in our thoughts. And, you know, I just want to send on behalf of Straight Talk, I'm sure my colleague will have a few words, but on behalf of the program and ourselves personally, we want to extend our heartfelt condolences and prayers to the family of the late Reba Dilbert. She was a gem of a human being and a stalwart Caymanian, one in which I'm proud to say that I could call a friend. Ellio?
No, I definitely want to say the same thing as my colleague has mentioned. We knew her from way back when on the Crosstalk, regular caller to the program, and I think Reba has done and made a wonderful contribution to the country. I think most of us know her quite affectionately with all of the wonderful costumes that she made for the Bata Banu, and the list goes on.
Yes.
And she definitely left her mark, and it was sudden and shocking to hear that she's gone, but she will be missed for sure.
Indeed. She designed, in addition to designing carnival costumes for Bata Banu, on many occasions she would design costume for Miss Cayman World, Miss Cayman Universe when they would compete on the international stage. She also did gown work. She was just extremely, extremely talented, but always down to earth.
Oh yeah.
You know, the original West Bay from the Republic. You know, you can take a West Bay out of West Bay, but you can't take West Bay out of them. And she was always, no matter where she went, you had no doubt as to what part of the Cayman Islands she was from. She was a proud West Bay, and again, she was our friend. And we both were a bit stunned when we heard the news earlier this morning, saddened by the news, really. Because we are losing some of our,
stalwarts.
Our stalwarts, our great Caymanians, persons who have made significant contributions to this community, the wider community. I know Miss Reba certainly brought Cayman to, I think there was a carnival in Honduras that she used to go to almost all of the time, and she always took the Cayman Islands with her then. And wherever she went, she wore the flag, arguably on her shoulders, both literally and what's the word? Literally and
I'm smiling now. Figuratively, you're looking for?
Figuratively was the word I was looking for.
Yeah, you owe me a couple of quarters now.
I do, buddy. I do. Put it on my
but
tab.
I'm smiling because I remember she was always smiling, right? Always laughing.
Yeah,
you know that.
Well,
I'm sure she must have had one or two other moments, but I just definitely remember her with the big smile and
what I remember was her
laughter.
ever-changing hair color. You know,
Yeah.
One day was yellow, next day was green, other day was purple, then pink. She always kept it interesting up top.
Full of color.
Full of color was Reba Dilbert, and she will certainly be sorely missed in the Cayman community, but certainly in the Carnival, Bata Banu Pirates Week community as well, all across the Cayman Islands. And I do hope that, she has been awarded, I think, a number of awards, certainly the International Design Award she received, competing on the global stage. But I think posthumously, when we, celebrate things like National Heroes Day, it's persons like Reba Dilbert that truly need a place in our history, and I hope the country will remember her as we do. But again, heartfelt condolences, thoughts, and prayers go out to the family of now the late Reba Dilbert, who passed away at the tender age of 71. Moving on to the good news category, I guess we'll start with what we have coming up at 5 o'clock. As we have been talking about, we continue in our candidates forum, life after the campaign trail, a first for the Cayman Islands. And of course, we're proud to be able to bring that first to you here on Straight Talk, not looking at the winners, but looking at those who perhaps didn't win. I won't call them losers, but certainly ones that were not successful at the polls. A look back at what they learned, what the experience was like. Will they do it again? And really, what happens next? Terrific. So we know, just being informed, that our guest has arrived, and he will be joining us here in studios promptly at 5:07 when we return from the top of the hour news. Our guest, of course, today will be none other than Jordan Rivers.
Exciting.
Exciting, who has certainly developed a name for himself on this program. He's largely become, as Ellio called it, a fan favorite for many of our listeners, and we're delighted to be able to host him back in studios. He will be our guest as we continue our series, the Candidates Forum, Life After the Campaign Trail, with Jordan Rivers when we come back following the 5 o'clock news break. In the good news category, talking about stalwart Caymanians, the Cayman Islands National Museum has received 2 specialty items, both handmade by national hero, politician, and nurse, Mrs. Mary Evelyn Wood. The items, a crochet handbag and an embroidered handbag, will be added to the national collection. The collection, according to the museum, said that these will add a personal dimension to its exhibits about historical figures. The artifacts, the museum said, offer a glimpse into the textile and fabric traditions of the Cayman Islands. And Ellio, with your permission, a little history lesson on Miss Mary Evelyn Wood. Mrs. Wood was born in 1900 and lived to 1978, so 78 years of age. She was the first woman elected to the Legislative Assembly of the Cayman Islands and the first woman in the Cayman Islands to serve on a jury. Wood trained as a nurse and worked in her community in the profession whilst visiting new and expectant mothers as well as sick people. She provided care to victims of the typhoid epidemic in the late 1930s. Amongst her accolades include the fact that she was among the women who signed the 1957 petition to support global women's suffrage, which was succeeded in 1959. And in 1965, Wood received the Cayman Islands Certificate and Badge of Honor for her service to the community. And in 2011, she was among 5 other Cayman Island national heroes formally recognized during the National Heroes Day celebrations. So her handiwork, her craft work in particular, will now be elevated to the lofty place of the National Museum, and her name continues to go down and be remembered in the annals of Cayman Islands history. And we're delighted to be able to share in that wonderful news.
Well, I'm happy you read that. I learned something new.
So did I.
Great.
And, certainly want to extend our heartfelt best wishes to the family of the late Mary Evelyn Wood, thanking you for sharing this wonderful person with these, our beautiful Cayman Islands, but for a while. In other good news, we see a Cayman Islands student taking on a 5-mile deep water swim, Ellio, in the name of environmental conservation later this month. Connor Childs, aged 22. Let me stop there. So he's age 22. There was a picture of this guy in the Cayman Compass. He didn't look 22 years. He looked like 32, maybe even 42.
Oh, okay.
You know, I thought, my God, they're building them much more mature looking these days. But apparently Connor Childs is only 22 years old and is expected to swim the stretch of water. We'll come to you in a minute. He's got to look behind you. He just can't help himself. He's sticking his head in going, I'm here. Childs will swim the stretch of water, and is called, I think, either the bog or the bogue. It's spelled B-O-G-U-E.
Got a bug.
Bogue, yeah?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. But again, if anybody has the correct
potato.
pronunciation, we would love to hear from you. But he will swim the stretch of water that runs between Cayman Brac and Little Cayman next week, Thursday, I believe, the 14th of August, to raise funds for the National Trust in the Cayman Islands. Childs is expected to depart from the western tip of Cayman Brac at 6 a.m. and swim towards the point of sand on the eastern end of Little Cayman. He expects the swim to take between 3 and 3.5 to 4 hours. Now get this. My brother here is swimming in deep water.
Yeah.
That is dark water. That's the dark matter.
That's that deep blue, want to be purple when it grows up.
Be purple. You just don't know what might be swimming up on you.
Right.
And instead of doing it in the middle of the afternoon when the sun is high in the sky.
We're going to go at night.
Oh, no. He got to go at 6 o'clock in the morning, literally, dark 30-ish.
You got to save the environment.
He really does. He got to save the environment. I hope the environment.
I'm sorry, but I'm sorry, but you know what I thought of?
Him.
I thought of when you said he was 22 years old. I thought you were going to say something like one of his parents had just become Caymanian. It's like, I think about it. The future, according to Michael Miles and the National Coalition for Caymanians. This young man is swimming at 22 years of age for the environment. And by the way, one of his parents has just become a Caymanian. Oh, my God.
You can't make me laugh like that, bro.
I couldn't help myself.
Oh, that's too funny.
Yeah.
He's swimming in boat water, in blue water, water where the pelagic
where boats are supposed to go.
Like blue marlin, wahoo, yellowfin tunas,
dark
sharks. They all live and populate those areas. Apparently, Childs will be in the water alone, but a chase boat will follow him on the journey between the islands.
Oh, that'll protect him.
Yeah, that'll protect him. So listen, I hope, first of all, we want to, say kudos and congratulations to Connor Childs for doing the swim and clearly doing it for the right reasons. Conservation is important. We get it. But I want to encourage our prayer warriors, Cayman is a praying community, to lift up Connor Childs in their prayers for his safety. Swimming in between Cayman Brac and Little Cayman in the early hours of the morning. Childs apparently grew up in the Cayman Islands, is on summer vacation from studying environment and geography at the University of Hawaii. Now, again, look at that. He grew up in paradise, and he goes to school in another paradise. Not a bad way of living at all. Mm-hmm. He has long been concerned about the environment and says he wants to do something to help preserve it. He hopes by doing this swim that people will be inspired by his story and will go to the website of the National Trust for the Cayman Islands and donate to the Land Preservation Fund. So again, kudos to Connor Childs, age 22, for being brave, swimming in deep water between Cayman Brac and Little Cayman on the 14th of August, asking our prayer community to lift him up, and congratulations to him. 51 minutes past the hour, 4 o'clock is the time. We got two more good news items. The Cayman Bay basketball camp wrapped up its annual summer camp on the 1st of August with a special visit from the NBA's Utah Jazz forward Kenyon K.J. Martin Jr. The camp, which was a collaboration between DART and the NBA, provided a week of intensive training and skill development under the guidance of 4 American basketball coaches, including Philip Calvert, an international coach renowned for his work in the junior NBA. Calvert described the week as smooth sailing despite the long hours with a large number of campers. The curriculum featured a dynamic blend of drills and games designed to push the players and expose them to the demands of higher level of play. The camp was hosted between the 28th of July and the 1st of August and was split into 2 daily sessions to cater to different age groups and skill levels. Now, regrettably, the story did not elucidate in terms of the numbers of campers, but it suggests the fact that it was split into 2 groups, that it was probably very popular, and a healthy number of campers participating in that exercise. So congratulations to the Cayman Bay, and of course the partnership with the NBA. I'm assuming that the camp itself was hosted at the Arts and Recreation Center, better known as the ARC Center, over there in Cayman Bay. And last but not least, Ellio, something that's right up your alley, Farmer McDonald. The government has officially opened a new facility at the Department of Agriculture to boost Cayman's small but growing local egg production. Thank you. According to a press release about the initiative, it was described as a key step in strengthening food security and supporting the growth of sustainable agriculture across the islands. The aim is to help local egg production and reduce Cayman's reliance on imports. The facility will not sell eggs, but will help those who do with products and support. Agriculture Minister, the Honorable J.E. Banks, who officially opened the facility, said, "It was an investment in our future." He was quoted in the press release as saying, and I quote, "It demonstrates government's commitment to agricultural development, greater local food security, and support for Caymanian farmers." The egg facility will offer technical support and workshops that will equip Caymanians with the tools and knowledge to engage in small-scale poultry farming, as well as supply fertilized eggs for farmers to rear laying chickens. So, again, they'll provide the egg and the chicken that produces the egg, and you can answer the question, so which came first?
Yeah.
But kudos to the government, kudos to the Minister of Agriculture. We know that there has been the ambition of the new incoming chief officer of the Ministry of Agriculture, Wilbur Welcome, to make food security a priority.
I thought he was no head of the DOA. Not DOA, it's referred to as agriculture, but
I thought he made chief officer. I know he was deputy chief officer for a while. We'll have to look. I want to make sure I get it right.
Because I think I heard that, what was the Bajan guy that was there? Kirschlow?
Oh, yeah, David. Yeah.
Didn't he leave?
I don't know. We'll have to look.
Okay, but we'll have to check that
Mr.
out.
Will, you know what? I got Wilbur on speed dial. I'll ask him what his proper title is now. And if it's not chief officer of the ministry, then it is the head of the Department of Agriculture. So it's a very good point.
I thought I listened carefully to you, and I thought I heard that you said that some time ago.
Oh, somebody just chimed in at 56 minutes saying there was thunder, lightning, and rain just south of South Sound last night, just offshore. So,
okay.
Again,
I'm not sure if that qualifies.
I don't know if it qualifies, but hey, I'm going to take it. Listen.
You know where it happened also? Somewhere between here and Cuba, I think. Hey, but either way, we appreciate that text.
That sounds like the broad National Weather Service forecast. It happened somewhere between here and Florida.
Maybe the person's saying that tongue in cheek. You think?
No, I think they're being
serious.
They're being honest. And again, we want to give the National Weather Service, the benefit of the doubt. So I'm delighted to hear that at least one member of the community,
just south of us,
at least saw some, heard some, and can report back to us that there was some, albeit offshore. Mm-hmm. So nothing for the rain, nothing for the trees and flowers and grass. But hey, a little way of diluting all that salt water and deep water land. But thank you to the listening audience for sharing that information with us.
You're so harsh, Austin.
Man, I just want to encourage them to get it right. You know what I mean? Yeah.
If you get it, I'm going to suggest if you ever get an invitation to, what is it, National Weather Service?
Yeah.
If they ever have a Christmas party, you get an invite.
I'm taking you with me just in case they have alternative plans for me. And I'll take a
I'm going to suggest you do not go.
No, I'm thinking you're right. I'm thinking that is good advice.
At the minimum, they're going to wet you down, buddy.
At the minimum, indeed. So, yes, correction. Our good friend, Mr. Wilbur Welcome, not WW there, is the new director for the Department of Agriculture, and the chief officer for the ministry is none other than the former Cayman Islands representative to the UK, Mr. Harry Bush. Austin. So, yes, thank you, Ellio, for obviously having a better memory than I. And again, congratulations to Mr. Wilbur Welcome. I do remember him as the deputy chief officer. I think he was the Ministry of Education at one stage under the then minister, the Honorable Juliana O'Connor Connolly. But I know he's a solid civil servant, someone who cares very deeply about the Cayman Islands and the work that he does. And it's nice to see that he has advanced and now in agriculture. And again, his priority will be food security. And I can think of no better Caymanian.
Well, they're definitely doing some good things.
Yes, they are.
To that.
Absolutely. It is 59 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock. And it's about that time where we have to pause, take a short commercial break, check in with the top of the hour news, brought to you by our news partner, the BBC. A lot of things going on in the global news. They're going to hear all about it now. But keep it locked. There'll be more Straight Talk with our guest, Jordan Rivers, next.
Bobo.
Welcome to our newsroom here in central London. We place ourselves here, a little desk right in the thick of things.
OS from the BBC.
We can catch the very latest news from our colleagues, not just in this enormous room, but also from our colleagues around the world.
I'm in the room where they're treating children.
This is a combat zone.
The situation after the typhoon is very complicated.
It was a very tense situation.
OS from the BBC.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM.
BBC News.
BBC News.
World news from the BBC. Violent clashes. Thick black smoke.
A tremendous legal victory.
Crucial elections.
Destructive wind.
A search and recovery operation.
A race against time.
An imminent threat.
Flying a drone over a rival team's training session.
Whatever is happening, wherever it's happening, catch up with the latest news bulletins from the BBC.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM.
The BBC's From Our Own Correspondent.
In today's Russia, no one is allowed anywhere near the political stage if they pose a serious challenge to Vladimir Putin.
Stories and reflections from our reporters around the world.
There is a major sense of insecurity here.
More people are coming in from Sudan every day.
From Our Own Correspondent from the BBC.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM. This is Bobo 103.1, powered by Health Services Authority.
At Health Services Authority, they are committed to caring for you. They are Cayman's largest and longest-standing healthcare provider, offering the most comprehensive range of inpatient, outpatient, and public health services at 9 different locations across all 3 islands.
Across Cayman on 103.1 FM, online, and on your smart speaker. The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo 103.1.
BBC News with Sue Montgomery. Donald Trump says there's a good chance of him meeting President Putin of Russia soon to discuss a ceasefire in Ukraine. Earlier on Wednesday, Mr. Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, had what was described as a highly productive meeting with President Putin in Moscow. The US deadline for the Kremlin to agree to a truce in Ukraine is due to expire on Friday. President Zelensky spoke to Mr. Trump tonight and sounded cautiously optimistic.
European leaders were also on the call. I'm grateful to each of them for their support. We discussed what was said in Moscow. It appears that Russia is now more inclined to consider a ceasefire. The pressure on them is working. But the main thing is to make sure they don't deceive anyone in the details, neither us nor the United States.
Donald Trump has told reporters that the tech giant Apple will invest an additional $100 billion in manufacturing in the US. Apple's CEO, Tim Cook, who was also present in the Oval Office, explained that the investment would focus on producing more components, including chips, in the US. Mr. Trump also announced his intention to impose a 100% tariff on chips and semiconductors produced abroad. State TV in Sudan says the Air Force has destroyed an Emirati aircraft carrying Colombian mercenaries as it landed in an area of Darfur controlled by the paramilitary RSF. A military source told the French news agency the plane was completely destroyed. Here's Temesgen Debesai.
The Sudanese broadcaster says the aircraft had taken off from the Gulf, carrying foreign fighters and military equipment for the Rapid Support Forces, which controls most of Darfur. For a long time, the army, led by General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, has accused the UAE of arming the paramilitary forces. Despite numerous reports by the UN, Abu Dhabi has denied any link with the RSF. The conflict, now in its third year, has killed tens of thousands and displaced 13 million people.
Archaeologists have found new evidence showing that Pompeii was reoccupied following its destruction by a volcanic eruption nearly 2,000 years ago. They say some survivors appear to have returned to live in the ruins of the ancient Roman city. Gabriel Zuchtriegel is the site's director.
Many people died. Many went to live elsewhere. But not everyone could afford to. Not everyone had the means. So there were also people who returned to the site, which was deserted. The upper floors were still recognizable. People still lived where the city had been and began to live almost like in a kind of camp, a favela, among the ruins of Pompeii.
World News from the BBC. Thousands of French firefighters are battling to contain the country's worst wildfires in almost 80 years. They've scorched an area of the southern department of Aude larger than Paris, consuming forests and homes and closing roads. Witnessing the disaster firsthand, the French Prime Minister, François Bayrou, described it as a catastrophe on an unprecedented scale. One woman was killed and another person is missing. 5 U.S. soldiers have been wounded in a shooting at Fort Stewart Army Base in the state of Georgia. They were all treated on site and then moved to the local hospital. Fort Stewart, a sprawling army base that's home to thousands of soldiers and their families, went into lockdown as emergency teams raced to respond. The commanding general at Fort Stewart, John Lubas, gave this update at a press conference.
This morning, an active duty soldier assigned to Fort Stewart, Georgia, shot and wounded 5 of his fellow soldiers here on Fort Stewart. Thankfully, all are in stable condition and all are expected to recover. The alleged shooter is in custody. We have reestablished security. I have lifted all lockdown measures on Fort Stewart, and there is currently no threat to the local community.
The Bosnian Serb leader Milorad Dodik says he's not going anywhere after Bosnia's election authorities stripped him of his presidency. Last week, an appeals court upheld a 12-month jail sentence he received for obstructing the work of the international envoy overseeing Bosnia's peace accords. In a further deterioration in relations, President Macron has called for France to be firmer and more determined towards Algeria and suspended visa exemptions for its diplomats. Relations began to sour when France recognised Moroccan sovereignty over the disputed territory of Western Sahara. Algeria subsequently imprisoned a French-Algerian novelist. BBC News.
Opinions expressed on Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio do not necessarily reflect or represent the views of Stingray Media, its staff, or contributors. Callers to the program accept full responsibility for the views expressed. The show host and affiliates are not liable for any statements made or any harm claimed. All callers to the program indemnify Straight Talk from all claims. Offensive, defamatory, or unlawful content will not be tolerated. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Now, here's Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio on Bobo 103.1.
And welcome back, man, to more Straight Talk here on Bobo 103.1 FM and simulcasting live over YouTube and Facebook under the key search words Straight Talk Radio Show. You can also find us streaming live on the ACT Cruise Tourism page on Facebook as well. It is 7 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock in studios, and it is our absolute pleasure as we continue our series discussion, the Candidates Forum, Life After the Election Trail, with our very special guest in studios, former candidate and certainly former regular primetime feature on this program, Mr. Jordan Rivers. Mr. Jordan, welcome back to your second home here on Straight Talk.
You're right about second home. Thank you so much for having me back, guys.
A pleasure to have you here in studios, and we look forward to, again, engaging in another insightful conversation. When we first got together for, 6 or 7 weeks or so leading up to the elections, you were preparing for, vying for, very enthusiastic to hold the post as a member of parliament and representative of your community there in West Bay. Now, of course, looking back, if you will, in the rear view on that experience, perhaps focusing in on, some of the things you learned, what you discovered in that process is where we want to take it. A few fundamental questions along the way. Will you do it again? But also more concerned about your present circumstance, as we have been banging the drum and arguably fighting for those persons who put themselves forward for elected office, trying to ensure that they continue to have their place in Cayman society, in particular in the workforce. And we'll talk about that as well. But Ellio, as you have done for 1, 2, 3 sessions previously, why don't you start it off for us?
All right. Well, thank you very much, my good colleague Harris. And again, as he said, welcome, Mr. Rivers. Welcome to the program. Just wanted to chat with you. I guess we'll start for the benefit of those persons who might have missed it when we had you here in the campaign trail. I think it was at least 5 times, 5 separate occasions. But tell us, first of all, a little bit about yourself and a bit of the raising. I think you want to mention. I know your mom was right here behind. I'm sure your dad as well, but she was right here, in the studio, even spending time with you during the campaign. But tell us a little bit about Jordan Rivers, again, leading up to the point of where and when you decided that you wanted to actually run for office. What kind of sparked that interest and curiosity?
All right, well, I think that's a soft enough question to start with, because you guys are very hard hitters. So
yeah, we'll get to those.
Well, my name is Jordan Rivers. I'm a now 28-year-old Caymanian from the District of West Bay. My background has always been in tourism and the concerns of the environment. I operate and manage my family's business at the moment. Sorry, let me correct that. I did operate my family's business at that time. I was very much raised in a political household. I was taught that the onus is on you, the individual, not the party. So it became a very interesting affair when I joined a party. There's a lot of learning behind that, and I was very grateful for that. But I've always been interested in the direction that the country has ran itself. I was very much involved when my father ran, I want to say in 2009 and I think 2012 were the 2 times that he ran. So I've always had a bug for politics from then.
Okay.
It was a very interesting experience being 11 years old and watching your father run for public office, where your viewpoint was very different. And
would you say the spark started there, or maybe even before that?
I would say a little bit before, but it definitely manifested itself heavily when he officially decided to run, because when you're doing all the background work and you watch your father run for office and you're sitting there, and keep in mind now, I'll repeat what I repeated during the campaign trail. It wasn't that my father practiced in front of me or reviewed his speeches or whatever not. But when you sit in that front row and you can actively observe and actively witness what adults are saying and comprehend them, when it gets time to where you're by yourself, my parents have never been shy about exposing me to adult conversations. As my father has told many of his friends, listen, whatever is said here stays here. That is it. He knows better than to not repeat that later on. And that allowed me to have a front row seat to how discussions for the country went on for well over a decade. Right now, I can comfortably say that I have over 17 years of political experiences and continue to grow as I get older. But my parents have never been adverse to exposing me to high-level conversation. And I think that's very much what shaped and molded me, because as kids, you genuinely want to be a part of adult conversation, but you're usually not allowed to. It's very much a situation of you speak when spoken to. My parents never put me in that box, and I think that very much gave me an edge for my age during this political campaign.
And that makes perfect sense as well. So, Austin, that definitely makes perfect sense too, right? Because you come in here and you're 28, and the way you speak, articulate, you're all eloquent. It makes absolute sense that you were definitely involved even before 11.
Absolutely. Just very quickly before we move on, you mentioned your father, and I think it is appropriate to mention who your father is, not was, but is. Again, we talk about persons we've known for a long time. Your father was both a close personal friend of ours as well as a colleague and ally in the political landscape. He is not, and of course, a very strong contributor to, I guess, both versions of our radio life, both in the beginning and even up to our current program here on 103.1. But your father is Paul the Lion Rivers, and he earned the nickname for having that very strong personal character, conviction, and integrity on the things that he believed in, and undoubtedly a lot of that was, shared on to you, passed on to you. But I'm curious, your father, you mentioned the 2 times your father ran for office, and if memory serves correct, he ran as an independent both times. What was his feedback to you when you decided to run for the first time, but be a part of a party or group? And I believe you were the Cayman Islands National Party at the time. So what did Dad have to say about that?
So funny enough, it's that because I've had such an early start in politics, and I knew that whether I differed from my father's opinion or not, it was always done under good counsel and good advice. So I always took it into account with the decisions that I made. I also have another great mentor being Mervyn Smith that has guided me through it. And he was a lot more active during my campaign. He was very much the, as you'd call it, the front man for my political journey. And the 2 of them were approached by Dan Scott. He's probably over 12, 13 months here now. Time very much blends together the longer it goes on and the older I get. And I was not a part of that initial journey. They were the fundamental and key pieces to the beginning of that party long before I was even involved. And as you all would know, my father's a very tight-lipped individual. If he doesn't need to release it, he's just not going to do it no matter how much you press him, which is part of the moniker that he carries. He's just that bravado kind of individual. But he definitely was in communication with Dan and the party in the early stages for at least 3 months. I was quite a bit shocked when I found out that they were actually starting a party, because growing up in my lifetime, I was way too young to understand politics when my father first left the UDP back in the late 90s. So for me, I very much grew up in an independently minded household. I never, or desired for that matter, to have any kind of ties with party politics, because from my viewpoint, it very much destroyed the country and kind of set us on the track that we are now. So I was a bit taken aback when he said that this is what they were creating. So I waited patiently. A few months proceeded on, and then my father finally involved me. I was originally never necessarily meant to be a candidate. But now I'll actually give the shout out here because time has passed now. But I want to thank Kathy Ebanks-Wilkes for actually reaching out to Dan and telling him that I'm a person to look out for. That's very much what boosted the whole situation I've now found myself in, if we can call it that. So Dan reached out to me probably about maybe 6 months into the formation of the party. I want to say I was, I think, member number 6 at that point in time. So we went and had dinner. I think it lasted about 3 hours. Very high intellectual dinner. Like I was quite surprised, because as an individual that comes from a household that deals with politics, especially the nature of how we deal with politics, we're very combative. We're going to see exactly what you're made of very early on. If you can't keep up with it, we're going to find out very early on. And to talk with an individual like that and see exactly that, oh, you're not just private sector, you actually understand how the country operates and how the country runs, it very much scratched that itch that I was looking for. So by the end of that dinner, I'm not going to lie to you guys, I was ready to sign on the dotted line. But I did tell him, I said, listen, as much as I like the path that you're on, there's a few things that I need to get done before we move forward with this. And I want to see us have certain facets in place that allows us to protect the members and the organization overall, because that came from a personal part of me where we have sponsored and supported other independent candidates over the decades, and we've seen how party politics have operated. So the request came from experience. And I told him, I said, listen, I'd rather us carry a big stick and not need it than to need it and not have it. So once, and I will call them demands for the sake of argument, once they were met, I was perfectly fine with signing on to the party. I was very happy with that because I felt as though that if we did not have these 2 or 3 simple things in, this was not going to be meant to last in the long run of things. And I think we've done very well so far. I mean, for necessity's sake, we've only gotten 4 members in, but one of our members has taken out the godfather of politics. We have positioned ourselves in a very strong situation to where we are, the Cayman Islands National Party is here to stay. It is the future of politics,
right?
Whatever that may look like. But granted, I have glossed over the whole thing, but it has been a very impactful point in time in my life where I have learned a lot from not only the party politics standpoint, the independence, because I've spent a lot of time with you guys, so you all know unequivocally Jordan is Jordan, party or not. Like I can dance a little bit better for sure. I no longer have 2 left feet, and I will speak for myself, but for the sake of the party, I understand that what needs to get done in the country, we are very much on a good track, and I do look forward to the next 3.5 years.
Well, it sounds like you would initially have had certain, positions in relation to whether a person should run independent or party. And again, you even expressed that you felt parties had destroyed the country to some extent. Would you say then that your experience just prior to and getting engaged with CINP has changed that?
It definitely has, and I'll tell you why. If you look at the U.S., they have the Democrat and the Republic Party, and no other parties can filter into that. Cayman is one of those few countries to where party politics plays a heavy role, but it allows for independent candidates to actually join the fray and join the system itself. I, as an individual, found no joy in the old system of politics. I did not feel as though there was any room for development, growth for young individuals, no right direction. It almost felt like it had gotten to a point where it was so twisted to where if you weren't answering to the leadership, then there was nothing for you. So you would never find me joining a UDP or joining a PPM, irrespective of the dynamic of West Bay. Like, I very much follow suit with my father when it comes to those kind of things, that I'm not going to reach for higher office the easy way. I'm going to earn that, not buy that. So I was very happy that we finally had something in place, or the emerging of something in place, that allowed us to create a new pathway for Cayman. Granted, the TCCP, for instance, was a much newer entity later on, but from what I was seeing is that we needed that new third arm to actually combat the old system. And if I felt any kind of inkling of that they were going to fall into the same old traps, I would have ran this whole race as an independent. It doesn't affect me in that capacity. But I very much believe in the vision that they have and the direction they want to go. And you all can see it now. I know you guys have had a lot of, we'll call them, concerns with the new Minister of Immigration, but he is following the CINP handbook. And we have all collectively fed information into that to the point where it may not be the most politically correct way of doing things, but it's what's needed. We need to be a little bit tougher on immigration. We need to be a little bit tougher on tourism. We need to actually shape what Cayman's product is going to look like. So I'm in full support of them. I have my questions and my concerns, but the beauty of the party is that I can call that said minister up and say, hey, I understand that you've done X, Y, and Z. What's the reasoning that you've taken that approach for that? So there is a lot of benefit to it. And not to say that I am not willing to stand on my own 2 feet. I've always done it. But there is a little bit of comfort with having a party behind you and backing you and pushing you forward, that I can say, hey, I've built and made these relations with new persons that are now in. It used to be that I, for the most part, only had relationships with West Bay MPs. Now I have it across the entire country, all the way to the sister islands, and that's a huge level up for me. And I'm very happy with it. I'm very happy with our new MPs that we have going on. And I think that the CIMP over the next 3.5 years are going to make tremendous strides for the country. And not to toot our own horn, and the other elected officials can decide whether they want to refute this or not, but I know what the facts are. The handbook that they are following is the CINP manifesto, because we have the most accurate, most up-to-date. We've had an entire brain trust of individuals that have come together and built this. So,
Jordan, you know that I love you too much to
say that.
I love you too much to to pressure you to respond for Minister Miles. You know, because when you say that some of those, and I don't unless you want to go there.
let me add to that, because I think again we're going to show an example how Ellio and I share the same brain. We heard you say that and already identified to us anyway, to me, that there's at least one job that you could ably fill and be, have huge effect, and that's a spokesperson for your friend Minister Miles.
I was going to say
absolutely has been under pressure by the two of us.
I know. I've been listening.
I'm happy, and the reason I say it is because I mean, if you want to do that, I think it would be very good. Because I'll tell you what, I don't think that they're filling that void at this point. Mm-hmm. Which I don't know if somebody thinks that that's advantageous to them, but I don't think it is, right? But I don't want to necessarily pressure you in relation to those questions, no, because, there's a lot of things that I have questions in mind, and, how did we come up with 22 years and a myriad of different things, and we compared manifestos and said that one talks more about enforcement, etc. So
until they offer you the job as spokesperson, we won't pressure you.
Yeah, so
if they offer it and you accept, prepare yourself.
I'll find myself back here first, okay?
So
there you go. At least you are willing to come sit with us.
So I just want to make it clear to you and to the listening audience, I am tempted. But I won't do that because it's not the purpose. But I thank you very much for sharing all of that. Mm-hmm. So you feel right now that the party is in a good position and that your involvement is steady and firm going forward.
Yes, and I will caveat that with saying this is that I personally have not been offered anything as of yet. We're still very much early into this government administration, so I do look forward to seeing what is on the horizon from both CINP and TCCP, because unlike a lot of the candidates that did run, I have a lot of relationships on both sides, particularly in West Bay, and as you all would know, the individual that is now the premier of the country, we did endorse him in his first run. So we have a lot of close ties with both sides. Now, in case persons are wondering if there's any political shenanigans going on, there never has been. We've kept it very kosher throughout the campaign run. We had our side and they had theirs. But it's just how politics runs in Cayman. It's a very close-knit society. So I do look forward to seeing what is on the horizon. I'm not stressing about it too much. I did listen to you guys when you had Crystal Gomez on, and I did actually get to see her out in a very social setting very recently. So it was a very good catch up with her in that time. So, but I do very much resonate with her sentiments about it's very hard to get a job in Cayman when it comes to being what we would classify as a PEP nowadays. But I've always been fortunate enough that I've had my family behind me that has allowed me to be outward and speak out against things and not having to worry about the blackballing of the private sector, even the government sector, because as we know, especially you two, you would know, being former members of government yourself, that there is a lot of blackballing that takes place in this country when it comes to individuals that decide to stick their heads up above the grass blades.
Yes, indeed.
So I've been very secure in that fact. That's actually one of the main factors that have gotten me this far in life, is that if the government's going to attack me, they have to attack the entire tourism industry to get to me. So
Indeed.
It has been beneficial in that sense.
And I'm sure it helps, obviously, having your own business to fall back on. But at 26 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock, I want to get one question in very quickly. You made a very bold statement suggesting that the new National Coalition for Caymanian Government is very much operating under the CINP playbook, if you will, using your manifesto as a guide. And that brings me to wonder, whilst your leader, Dan Scott, who was not successful at the polls, what level of collaboration, I don't want to use the word influence because perhaps that might send the wrong message, but is there still collaboration going on between your central nucleus of CINP under the leadership of Dan Scott with the current caucus of government, as it would be?
So what I can say, because I am not in those meetings, I'm a past member in the sense that I ran.
You're on the outside looking in now.
On the outside looking in, which you get to at some point in time. But I do know, just from questioning and asking various things, that Dan, as the chairman of the party, is still very much actively involved in the direction that we are going, because as you would know, Gary Peanut Reddy is our now leader of the party in government, and he liaisons with Dan on the direction of how we're doing. So there's a lot of communication that takes place with this. So we are very much involved in the direction of how things are going. Now, until that changes, you're going to hear me tooting the same horn. But for right now, as the country sits, we are very much moving in unison together.
All right. So one quick question to tease things just before we come back from the break. I've been hearing that there was a tacit, silent agreement in the group NCFC, which includes CINP, that nobody that ran against them in their particular constituencies are going to be able to serve on boards, etc. So have you heard this as well?
Yeah, so what I will say before we go to the break, yes, I have heard this, but that warrants a little bit of a longer discussion, so we can talk
absolutely
after the break.
All right, fantastic. I tell you what, you weren't successful at the polls, but you sound more and more like a politician every single day. It is 29 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock here in studios, and we do have to pause, but reminding you our conversation and this, our continuing series of the Candidates Forum, Life After the Campaign Trail, will continue after the break with our guest in studios. Our very good friend, Mr. Jordan Rivers, is in studios, and we got another exciting half hour still to go, maybe even another exciting hour. He's never been a man short on words, so maybe we might stretch it all the way until 6:30. But keep it locked. There'll be more Straight Talk coming up next, right here, only on Bobo 103.1 FM.
More Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio coming up. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Bobo 103.1.
At Polar Bear Air Conditioning, we believe in helping you to avoid costly mistakes and replacements. That's why we offer a quarterly maintenance program at a discounted price. You'll receive a 10% discount on all repairs, accessories, and services. Priority front-of-the-line customer status, reminders of your service, and no overtime rate for after-hours calls. Why not save money and avoid hassle with Polar Bear Air Conditioning? Need service now? Book our AC special for just $99. Book the next available technician at polarbear.ky. That's polarbear.ky.
Looking for TVs, electronics, sound systems, speakers, gaming consoles, games, and smart home gadgets? Shop Cost You Less.
Looking for housewares, small appliances, fans, mini fridges, and cooling? Shop Cost You Less.
Looking for baby supplies, toys and games, pet supplies, cleaning supplies, and auto supplies? Shop Cost You Less.
Looking for quality produce, grass-fed meats, and groceries? You guessed it. Shop Cost You Less.
Cost You Less is your destination for everything you need on island. Cost You Less. Everyday low prices on items that matter to you.
We all work hard to one day buy the house of our dreams. Why wouldn't you protect it? With Saxon, you now have the option to get a home insurance quote online. Avoid the waiting in lines and the traffic. Simply log on to saxon.ky and click to get a quote to get started. At Saxon, we pride ourselves on providing our customers with excellent customer service and convenience. So what are you waiting for? Visit saxon.ky today from the comfort of your home or office to get your quote and protect the things you love. Saxon. Smart Insurance.
Hello, pet parents. We're K-Man Vets, K-Man's most advanced veterinary clinic providing quality care and services. We are committed to being your pet's advocate and friend, offering a lifetime of care. From vaccinations and wellness checks to more advanced surgical procedures, complicated medical concerns, and emergency care on demand. For more information about us or to get in touch, please visit kmanvets.com. K-Man Vets, where compassion meets excellence.
Shirts, pants, or linens. When you want them clean, just drop them off at Island Cleaners. Island Cleaners is a full-service dry cleaner, meaning you name it, they clean it. Professional shirt service, fluff and fold laundry, and more. Even drape and area rug cleaning and alterations, from quick hem jobs to resizing dresses. Island Cleaners, your one stop for everything clean. Artco Drive off Shedden Road. Ask about VIP and prepaid discounts.
K-Man, Eunice is here, the island's newest move-in and storage solution. Our robot delivery system allows you to put your unit almost anywhere while providing level loading, uploading, and minimizing shifting. What's even better, no time constraints. Pack at your own pace for moving or store as long as you need, short-term or long-term, at the home or on the job site. right. Units, fast, safe, and secure. Check us out at units.ky and be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram.
Across Cayman on FM, online, and on your smart speaker. This is Bobo 103.1, powered by Health Services Authority, committed to caring for you. The views and opinions expressed on Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio do not necessarily reflect or represent the views of Stingray Media, its staff, or contributors. Callers to the program accept full responsibility for the views expressed. The show host and affiliates are not liable for any statements made or any harm claimed. All callers to the program indemnify Straight Talk from all claims. Offensive, defamatory, or unlawful content will not be tolerated. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Now, here's Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio on Bobo 103.1.
And welcome back, Cayman, to more Straight Talk here, only on Bobo 103.1 FM and simulcasting live over YouTube and Facebook under the key search words Straight Talk Radio Show. We're your host, Ellio Solomon, and myself, Austin Harris, and we are blessed this evening for the return of our friend, former political candidate for the constituency of, let me get it right here because I made a note.
West Bay North.
West Bay North. Jordan Rivers is our guest in studios, joining us for our continued series discussion called The Candidates Forum, a look at life after the campaign trail. The phone lines are open at 745-2626. Why should we be the only ones to have the benefit of chatting with our guest this evening? Certainly giving you, our listening audience, an opportunity. Whether you want to say a kind word to Jordan, whether you want to congratulate him and thank him for stepping forward, putting himself forward for both the praise and the punishment that comes with politics, or ask him a question. The phone lines are yours at 745-2626. If, however, you talking isn't your thing, and perhaps you want to remain a little more anonymous, well, you can reach out to us on our WhatsApp line, 928-2562. I won't tell you what I was told about my phone during the break. Or you can get creative and send us a WhatsApp audio note also to the same number. Just very quickly, so that we can show some continuation from the last segment to this one, and fulfilling the educational component of our program, which are something we strive very hard to do, want to be more than just entertainment. But you mentioned in the last segment that one of the claims to fame, if not successes, of the Cayman Islands National Party at the last general elections, and you were absolutely correct in saying so, was that you managed to unseat, in your words, the godfather of the House. That is, of course, the father of the Legislative Assembly, now Parliament, the Honorable Makiva Bush, the longest-serving member in Parliament up until April 30th of this year, with Julie Hunter of the CINP winning that seat in West Bay West. Now, Ms. Hunter was one of 4 candidates for the CINP to secure a seat. Julie Hunter in West Bay West, the Honorable Gary Ruddy, Deputy Premier in Georgetown South, the Honorable Michael Miles in Prospect, and then on the sister islands, now the Honorable Nicholas DaCosta, who's sitting in as acting Deputy Premier in the absence of the formal Deputy Premier Gary Ruddy, Mr. Nicholas DaCosta. So again, 4 seats at the table, and as you stated earlier on, your chairman and former leader at the time, Dan Scott, still very much in the thrust of the political conversation, perhaps maybe continuing to collaborate and engage in partnership with the new National Coalition for Caymanian Government. Ellio, you want to lead us off on the next round?
Well, I had to chuckle again because I really got to say that this young man definitely takes after his father, has a heart of a lion. The gall to come in here into the studio.
The gall.
The gall.
Unmitigated gall. The audacity even.
And to make this statement about our good friend, Minister Miles. But either way, like I said, we'll leave that for another day. But I want to pick up
I'm impressed with your courage.
Yes,
young man.
yes,
Really
I am impressed. I'm impressed.
And only because we respect you so much will we say
we shan't go there.
We will leave that one alone for now because it's not his fault.
Yeah.
I will say, there's nothing else I got from my father. It is the testicle.
Yeah, I 100%.
Fall far from the tree at all.
100%. I can see Paul there.
Yeah.
On the issue about the agreement. What else do you have to share? I think just prior to the break, you were suggesting that there was some supplementary facts or something to add to that.
Oh, there was. But before we hop into that, let me just say this. Let me do a little bit of house cleaning first.
Okay.
I first want to thank God for health and strength during to navigate the election season. My committee, my parents, my family for believing in me and supporting me through and helping me throughout the journey. My West Bay North voters who took a chance by placing that X on by my name. I really want to thank them for that. It was not in vain, and I want to let them know that I am still here, and I will still be an advocate and an activist for our people and for our country.
Bravo.
I'm not going anywhere. I just want to let everyone know that. Like, you will see me in 3.5 years. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about that.
So you will be back on the campaign trail vying for office yet again.
I can answer.
You were not discouraged in the least.
No. I will tell you guys here now. I'm built a lot tougher than that. We will be back.
Yeah.
We will be back.
Well, outside of the rumor, which we'll get to it in a minute, but that is something we wanted to establish as well and learn from you is surely there would have been expectations that you had. You watched your father in the campaign. You probably walked away saying, I think I've learned something from this. And then you had your own expectations. And then you throw your hat in the ring, completely different again from the standpoint that you were with a party. He wasn't. But I'm sure you stumbled across a couple of things that you didn't necessarily expect and things, threw you a little bit for a loop, I would imagine. Share with us, what were your thoughts going in and what were some of the surprises?
Well, and you may or may not believe this, but politics in Cayman may have changed substantially, but it hasn't quite changed a whole lot yet. We still, in this country, to an extent, unfortunately, we vote for personality over policy. And that was a very big thing for me during the election time I even told my family and friends, like, I understand you all believe in me, but don't vote for me just because you know me. Vote for me because you believe in what I'm saying and believe what I'm trying to accomplish. That's the direction. I feel it's a necessary direction that we have to move in order to get this country on the track where we're all comfortable. We have to get away from this style of politics where it's, oh, I like him or I like her, and then I'm going to vote for them because that's my family. Family means nothing in this game. It may be a great extra couple of votes, but in the long run, that same individual that voted for them because they were family or because they liked them is going to be the same individual that becomes the most upset when they let them down because they're investing in the wrong vehicle. We need to invest in persons that are going to take this country into a new direction. So whether I lost votes or gained votes because of that is neither here nor there, but I made my standpoint very clear. Don't vote for me just because you like me. Vote for me because you believe in what I'm saying to you and what I plan to do for this country. So that was very much the first learning curve. As you all would know,
because you were hoping then that you would have been able to come make a presentation of ideas and people make their decisions based on that.
Yes, 100%. I don't. Even though to an extent it did benefit me to be Paul Rivers' son and to be mentored by
in some areas, right?
In some areas, for sure.
Sure, yeah.
And to be mentored by Mervyn Smith, it did. I'm not going to lie to anybody. It did help me.
Sure.
Very much so. But in order for me to make my own path in my own way, I have to make you all believe in me as the individual, not just giving me a good luck or a goodwill vote based on the people that are now coaching me and guiding me. Like, that's all fine and well. But to that extent, you can only hope that I follow through on what their principles are.
Right.
I need you to see that my principles are the same, even though I come from a different generation. I need you to see that I do have your best interests at heart, that I do have the same level of fight that they have, but I'm a bit more acquainted and a bit more prepared for the new era of politics that we're dealing with. We have a lot of new individuals in the House of Parliament currently, but we still have a lot of old individuals. And those individuals, unfortunately, have been raised in a political style that's no longer suited for Cayman. We're talking about persons that have taken Cayman for what it's worth. We need persons to maintain Cayman at its value and continue to grow it, and to make sure that Caymanians are actively involved in that growth and development, not just using them as a scapegoat to get further ahead. So that's how I view it here now. So I am very hopeful that as we continue through the next 3.5 years with the myriad of changes that I'm assuming are going to come down the pipeline, because we have made a lot of advancements or a lot of statements during the political campaign, that I hope we can get through at least half of them, right? That's just me personally. I know that the wheels of government turn slow, but if we look at persons like Minister Miles, they are tearing through a lot of that. So if we can get more on that track with
Boy, he tried it. Oh, he trying them patients bad, boy.
Listen, I can tell you guys one thing. Minister Miles is more than capable of defending himself. I don't need to be sitting here and doing
Encourage
that.
him to come sit with us a little bit.
I will. Yeah, I will.
Please do.
And if he's the kind of guy that I think he is, he's not afraid of the fire. He'll sit down and have a little campsite session with you guys.
Well, that's good, because there will be fire.
We have invited him.
We have invited. Listen, we got a question from the listening audience, some of which we've touched on, but they say to teach is to repeat. Good afternoon, Straight Talk, and to your guest, the future MP of West Bay North, Mr. Jordan Rivers. So somebody is seeing into their crystal ball in the future, and I would have to agree with it. Please ask Mr. Jordan Rivers, seeing that he was a Cayman Islands National Party candidate for MP seat in West Bay North, whether he is still at the table or being involved or being consulted by the new coalition government. And even though he ran against the current Minister of Finance, the Honorable Ralston Anglin in West Bay North, has Jordan been considered yet to serve on any of the boards or councils by this government? And the last part you have just answered unequivocally with a yes, but does Jordan plan to run in 2029? And does he feel that this will handicap him in any way in regard to the political activities of the next 4 years, especially with the dynamics of the current coalition government?
Okay, well, let's break that down. Thankfully, I've answered the third part already, so I can just only tackle two.
But do you believe to the, I guess the extended part of that is that they now make up a coalition, and as history has shown us, whilst members run as individual parties, they have also been known to perhaps arguably, if successful over the next 4 years, the team that makes up the current government may this time around decide to run as a team from the beginning, though when we hear you say that it was the Honorable Catherine Ebanks Wilkes who first recommended you to Dan Scott, that was a little bit of a hint that perhaps there was a collaboration between the TCCP and the CINP all along.
No, I wouldn't say that.
Oh, really? It sounded like that. I'm just saying.
Hey, listen, it can sound whatever it wants to whoever.
And you said it. I didn't.
What I will say is that my personal relationships with them, now, from my understanding, the initial joining of both forces was supposed to be that. As to what caused them to create two parties, I do not know personally. But in the very, very, very early stages, that was I would assume, the work of my own ethic that created that situation. The fact that I have involved myself with her, involved myself with Andre Ebanks, involved myself with Mario Ebanks. My family is not estranged to politics in the slightest, so we can chalk that up to just the earnings of my own work.
More and more like a politician all the time. That's a compliment.
Thank you.
Really is. To the question of being invited to serve on boards or councils, have those conversations even been hinted at?
Not currently, no. And I'm not going to rule it out just yet, because we still are in the early stages of government, even though we have a bit of cohesion, as you guys so eloquently put, the honeymoon phase of things. So it is still a time to be tested. I do have a lot of faith and confidence that our side and the TCCP side will keep things running smoothly and keep it rolling. And this is no discredit to the independent candidates at all, but the fact of the matter is, community is what builds things here. They are for themselves and by themselves in that sense. So I do have a lot of faith in what is on the horizon. I'm not going to dismiss it quite yet. But I, as an individual, have not been approached to join any kind of boards. What I would be interested in is something in the tourism field, because that's what I've been raised and groomed in. Thankfully now the Minister for Environment, Social Healthcare and whatnot is from West Bay. That is the Honorable Catherine Eubanks Wilts, which I do have a good relationship with. So if she feels so accustomed to, she can put me on a board there. I'm just putting it out there for that, but that is for them to decide, and it's not going to be no hard feelings.
Are you thinking it's going to happen?
I don't know. I really don't know. I like I said, I have not been approached by any person at this point in time on both sides of the line to do anything.
So that question goes to the question that I asked prior to the break, and that is in relation to the understanding that NCFC would have had some tacit agreement amongst themselves that they would not be putting persons who competed against them in a particular constituency, that they would not be employing them in any sort of government role,
so
be it on a board or otherwise. And I think you had something supplementary to say.
Yes. Now, for the listening audience, whether they believe Ellio is a madman or not, I can tell you that Ellio is not a madman. I have heard the exact same statements that he has echoed for weeks myself. Now, whether or not I got on the board, I would have to assume that that is based on that. But that has, from my understanding and from what I've been hearing, that's just a conversational piece. There has not been any facilities put in place into their agreement that allows for that to happen. I would think that personally, I would think that is a massive regression of our political system to go back to the old era of politics where it's, if you're not with me, you're against me. We have to move past that.
That would almost be this sort of quote unquote UDP style that you sort of.
Listen, you said it, not me, you know.
No. But I think that's exactly what you're alluding to, right?
No, and unfortunately it is. We'll just call it what it is. Yeah. And it's for the listening audience to make their claims of who is involved with that or not. Like,
the name on the door is Straight Talk, so you can speak your conscience.
As you all know, politics is not a straight path.
And I will stress that has happened even outside of UDP and other groups, and that is the sad part, is that at some point in time, and especially in light of the fact that we have new things, new legislation, SPLC, and so on, that we would expect that things would be different.
You would hope so.
And we will never know, arguably, if that's a tacit agreement. After all, it's silent, it's tacit. But we will be able to see, at least by actions, whether that is in fact the case. In example, if you are not appointed to a board.
To the first part of the writer's question, are you still at the proverbial table, or are you perhaps under it?
Not at the moment, no. And I'll be honest.
Not at the table. You don't have a seat?
Nope, not
no regular participation at all.
We have our party conversations where we meet with our MPs. We try to do it on a bi-monthly or at least once a month basis. But that's about as far as my input goes. I have been asked by individual MPs to be a part of, I wouldn't even say actual committees. It's more of so like guidance on how to do things for the next 4 years, but nothing in any official capacity. So I can say here in absolute transparency, I have not been appointed or asked to be a part of anything that actually allows me to be on a board. And that's just me being transparent with everyone.
Do you think that, and I don't want to labor as much on this because I want to get on to more about you and the campaign, but inquiring minds want to know. Do you think it is a little bit strange, odd that you're not necessarily, and I imagine the same things happening with the other candidates, not involved in some way in terms of helping to shape, at least that little 1/3, 33% of what's happening in the government, that you're not being asked to bear and have some influence on that?
I wouldn't say that we're actually down that path. We very much have input from our personal level with our MPs. We are very much in active talks with them. What they take once they bring that information to us and they go back to the collective government is our standpoint collectively. So I can say wholeheartedly that our MPs are still actively engaging with.
But I was inferring, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I was inferring that you were saying that there's no formal structure within CINP that is allowing for the exchange of information between the current government members of CINP and the wider group, and for you to have an influence on that. Am I incorrect?
I wouldn't say that you're incorrect per se. I would say more so that we deal with our people and our people go back to the wider government and deal with them. But in terms of our wider group and our wider body operating directly with the government on a council or an advisory basis, we're not directly there. It is very much our MPs communicating with us. So it is the same process in a sense, just one step removed. because if you were to even open it up to that, the question would now become, is the TCCP communicating with their immediate members to do all their stuff? Granted, we do know that a few individual members like Auntie and like Natasha Whitlock are now political advisors to the premier in certain capacities, but that's to the premier. We have our own communication system with our members as to how we're going to get things done. Me as an individual, I have not been asked to be a political advisor, is what I can openly say. I also have not been asked to be on a board as yet. But a lot of boards have not changed.
Well, I thank you for being as transparent as you can be. Again, getting back onto the sort of you and the campaign, is there anything else? You talked about the fact that going out there on the trail, it was a little bit disappointing to see how much personality plays over policy. Is there anything else that you think that struck you as something new that you learned, change from what you expected?
I would say the only real drastic changes that I've come across is that it's a very different scene when you start to promote yourself versus promoting an individual. There's a bit of a shield that you get when you can say, hey, I'm going to use the premier, for example. Hey, I'm Jordan Rivers promoting Andre Ebanks. There's a bit of a shield because you can say that you're not the person on the front line. When you become the person that where you're going to the house, hi, my name is Jordan Rivers and I'm running for the 2025 general election. There was a bit of a learning curve because even though I've had over a decade of experience, that was one of the things that I've never done, where I've gone house to house and I've promoted myself. So that's where I would say was the hardest shift for me, is coming into individuals' homes and saying, hey, this is why I think you should vote for me. Other than that, I don't mean to make it sound any less than it really is, because it is a grueling task all around. But for me, I've had enough experience to where that really was the biggest change or the biggest difference of viewpoint for me, was speaking for myself instead of speaking for somebody else. Like, I have had ample experience over the years where I've gone onto platforms and I've promoted the individual because I've sat with them in quiet and private rooms and learned who they are. Now it's like, who do I get to do that for me? I'm on the receiving end of that now more so than the giving end. So I will tell anybody that this experience, it takes a lot out of you. Like, you have to be prepared for it. Like, I can confidently tell you that within the last 3 to 4 weeks of the campaign trail, I watched as my other competitors fizzled out. They were not as active on social media. They were not as active on radio. And it's just me going one for one with the current incumbent of the government here now. And I think that if I did not have those years of experience, I would not have known where to step next for that. Like, there gets to a point where if you really believe in something, your heart starts to come out for it. And I think in those last 3 to 4 weeks is where my heart really came out. Like, I stopped caring more so about what was politically correct versus what was actually correct. And that's where I was challenging you at your doorstep more so than just lobbing a shot across the bow. I did not see that with my other younger competitors, and we can chalk that up to inexperience if we want, but the mechanisms I had behind me were very much pushing me for longevity, whether I wanted it or not. Like, I had people to answer to during my campaign, and I was not prepared to let them down whatsoever. I was going to give every inch of me.
Well, not to take anything off you, but as I think you would have mentioned earlier on, it's a case that clearly your other opponents in the race would have been completely new to this experience, where you were not directly involved as a candidate. You still had quite a few years of experience, vicariously under your belt. So in terms of the campaign, in terms of knocking on doors and chatting with people, would you say that you walked away perhaps preferring, with a preference that maybe you would like to have had it, that your conveyance of who you are was in more of a public matter via public meetings, or were you totally comfortable with the idea of doing that, knocking on doors? Do you have a preference?
I can't even give you a preference because it was my first real time doing it.
Okay.
What I can say is that there is a difference of atmosphere, a difference of energy versus going on a platform and speaking out. Like, in Cayman, historically, that has been more of your bravado moments where you show them how politics looks like on a grandiose stage. Whereas when you go to the individual households, that's where you can sit one-on-one with the families. I as taxing as that is, I still feel that's an essential aspect of Cayman, because if you look at the United States, if you're not in a position to schedule a meeting with those elected officials, you're not really going to meet them. They're going to have rallies, and 130,000 people are going to show up. They're going to say what they got to say, and then they get whisked off in a SUV to wherever they're going next. Cayman still has the benefit of knowing who's running and what they're doing, and being able to sit with them as the layperson and communicate and talk about ideas. So it's not a matter of whether I have a preference. It's a matter of what is essential to the growth of Cayman. We still have those private indoor meetings. So if I had to tell you, like, I personally wouldn't change a thing. Like, that decides, that specifically the house visits decides whether you're built for this or not, because you're going to learn within your first 2 weeks whether you can continue to wake up at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, and start hitting homes for your entire day till you hit 10 o'clock. So I think that really decides in our culture who's built for this or not. So I wouldn't change a thing. I can't say I have a preference. I love both sides of it.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are chatting with none other than Mr. Jordan Rivers, a fan favorite here, ran with the CINP in West Bay North. And, of course, as my colleagues going to very quickly tell us that we have to pause and take a very quick break.
That's right. Before we go off to the break, though, I want you to think on this during the break. We've talked about, your experience, what you learned, what you've encountered, whether or not you still have a seat at the table, and what you think are your chances of being, nominated to continue to serve whilst the government, which is at least part of it, CINP, and what role you will play. I want you to think about, you already said you're going to run for office in 2029. What would you do differently the next time around? That's the question we're going to ask when we come back. But as my colleague correctly stated, we do have to pause, take a short commercial break, check in with the BBC News. But there'll be more Straight Talk still to come right here, brought to you exclusively by Bobo 103.1 FM.
Bobo.
How can we understand the world better?
The BBC World Service is a window onto the wider world.
The vantage point from which to survey a new horizon.
News, reports, and analysis from around the world.
Stories we think matter.
Different people from different societies.
We get to the heart of global issues.
News, stories, and global perspectives from the BBC World Service.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM.
The BBC is the world's most trusted news source.
And Bobo 103.1 is where you'll find the BBC World Service.
BBC News, the world news from the BBC.
And the home of Cayman's most listened to talk shows.
That's right, folks. Everyone is telling their mama about the cold hard truth.
And welcome to Straight Talk. I'm your host, Austin Harris.
And I'm Ellio Solomon.
Across Cayman,
on FM, online, and on your smart speaker. This is Bobo 103.1.
Welcome to our newsroom here in central London. We place ourselves here at a little desk right in the thick of things.
OS from the BBC.
We can catch the very latest news from our colleagues, not just in this enormous room, but also from our colleagues around the world.
I'm in the room where they're treating children.
This is a combat zone.
The situation after the typhoon is very complicated.
It was a very tense situation.
OS from the BBC.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM. This is Bobo 103.1, powered by Health Services Authority.
At Health Services Authority, they are committed to caring for you. They are Cayman's largest and longest standing healthcare provider, offering the most comprehensive range of inpatient, outpatient, and public health services at 9 different locations across all 3 islands.
Across Cayman on 103.1 FM, online, and on your smart speaker. The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo 103.1.
BBC News with Sue Montgomery. Donald Trump says there's a good chance he will meet Russia's President Putin soon to discuss a ceasefire in Ukraine.
We had some very good talks with President Putin today, and there's a very good chance that we could be ending the end of that road. That road was long and continues to be long, but there's a good chance that there will be a meeting very soon.
Earlier on Wednesday, Mr. Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, had what was described as a highly productive meeting with Mr. Putin in Moscow. The US deadline for the Kremlin to agree to a truce in Ukraine is due to expire on Friday. Also on Wednesday, the US announced additional 25% tariffs on goods imported from India because of its purchases of Russian oil. From Washington, Nomi Iqbal gave us more details.
These sanctions or secondary sanctions, Russia's already heavily sanctioned to the point where it's questionable if further sanctions directly on the country would take effect. So I think Mr. Trump is thinking, let's go after the countries Russia does business with, such as India, to put pressure on them in that way. Prime Minister Modi was here in the US earlier in the year. I mean, he really does like to appeal to Donald Trump as much as possible. But he wanted Mr. Modi to pick a side. But India has said, look, we're acting in our interests.
Donald Trump has told reporters that the tech giant Apple will invest an additional $100 billion in manufacturing in the US. Apple CEO Tim Cook was also present in the Oval Office with President Trump. Here's our North America technology correspondent Lily Jamali.
Apple has scrambled to appease President Trump, who earlier this year threatened to place tariffs specifically on Apple products. Mr. Trump has demanded Apple move production of the iPhone from China to the U.S. Instead, Apple has moved it to India, which is now subject to tariffs. Speaking at the Oval Office alongside the U.S. president, Mr. Cook said certain components would be made in the U.S., including the glass that covers new phones and Apple Watches.
State TV in Sudan says the Air Force has destroyed an Emirati aircraft carrying Colombian mercenaries as it landed in an area of Darfur controlled by the paramilitary RSF. The army accuses the UAE of backing the RSF and supplying it with hundreds of foreign mercenaries, many of them Colombians. Despite numerous reports by the UN, Abu Dhabi has denied any link with the RSF. Nicaragua has passed a new law declaring all land within 15 kilometres of its borders as state property. Critics fear the move will let President Ortega's government seize homes and farmland and could open the door to more mining. World News from the BBC. The Bosnian Serb leader Milorad Dodik says he's not going anywhere after Bosnia's election authorities stripped him of his presidency. Last week, an appeals court upheld a 12-month jail sentence he'd received for obstructing the work of the international envoy overseeing Bosnia's peace accords. The government in Ghana says the defence and environment ministers have died in a military helicopter crash. Radar contact had been lost in the southern Ashanti region. President Mahama's chief of staff said Edward Omani Bwama and Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed were among 8 people on board. 5 U.S. soldiers have been wounded in a shooting at Fort Stewart Army Base in the state of Georgia. They were all treated on site and then moved to the local hospital. Law enforcement agents apprehended the attacker soon after arriving at the scene. Officials said he was a fellow soldier. Fort Stewart, home to thousands of soldiers and their families, went into lockdown as emergency teams raced to respond. Archaeologists have found new evidence showing that Pompeii was reoccupied following its destruction by a volcanic eruption nearly 2,000 years ago. The traces of resettlement were previously overlooked in the race to uncover frescoes and buildings. This report from James Reed.
Pompeii was home to more than 20,000 people before it was obliterated by the eruption of Mount Vesuvius and never recovered. But new excavations suggest some survivors returned to live in its ruins, perhaps because they couldn't afford to start a new life elsewhere. They may have been joined by others who came to dig in the volcanic ash for valuables. The director of the site said post-volcano Pompeii was more like a camp or favela than a city. People lived precariously in the upper floors of the old houses, while former ground floors were turned into cellars.
BBC News.
The views and opinions expressed on Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio do not necessarily reflect or represent the views of Stingray Media, its staff, or contributors. Callers to the program accept full responsibility for the views expressed. The show host and affiliates are not liable for any statements made or any harm claimed. All callers to the program indemnify Straight Talk from all claims. Offensive, defamatory, or unlawful content will not be tolerated. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Now, here's Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio on Bobo 103.1.
And welcome back, K-Man, to more Straight Talk here on Bobo 103.1 FM. with your host, Ellio Solomon, myself, Austin Harris, and going into Extra Innings, a program that was originally scheduled for 1 hour is going to be extending itself into the extra 30 minutes, or really 24 minutes or so that we have remaining at 7 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock, with our very special guest on our continuing series, The Candidates Forum, Life After the Campaign Trail. Mr. Jordan Rivers remains with us. The phone lines, as I stated earlier on, are still open at 745-2626, with about 23 minutes remaining in our show. If you have a burning need or desire in which you want to reach out and say a kind word or even ask a question of our guest, Mr. Rivers, now is your chance. 745-2626 is the number in studios. If, however, talking isn't your thing, you can reach out to us on our WhatsApp line, 928-2562. And from there, you can either share a WhatsApp text message or be creative and send a WhatsApp audio note. At 8 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock, Mr. Rivers, I asked the question prior to the break, and I'm sure you thought about it. Given your experience of running for office for the first time in a campaign just passed that was held on the 30th of April, but certainly very much thrust into the center of the political wranglings, enjoying a lofty position, being a member of the newest party, again, having come from a background that is, of course, your father of, a strong political background, but one in which ran independently. Given all that you experienced in those few months leading up to the general election, and of course the aftermath that came as a result of it, and you've already stated unequivocally you will be there on the podium in 2029. So West Bay, was it North? Be advised. Mm-hmm. But would you, given the experience that you've had past, would you do anything different the next time around?
I'll be honest with you. I would have started a bit earlier.
Yeah, okay.
I in the very early onset of it, I genuinely had cold feet because it was very much a procrastination of going from your private, happy, comfortable life to you got to start knocking doors. So I started, I would say, maybe October, early November. And if I had known how impactful it would have been to have an earlier start, I genuinely would have gotten an earlier start. I probably would have been campaigning a year or two out, be honest with you, because when it got to like the last 2.5 weeks, I realized after I looked at my map of where I've hit and where I haven't hit, I said, geez, I got to start hitting X amount of homes in a day because there's no way that I'm going to get through what is required. And in the overall rankings, it very much showed, like, when not even just taking the raw numbers, just taking the numbers that I was able to accrue, I knew enough myself. I could have easily broken 200, probably even got to 225 just on my own. But if I had a little bit more time, I know for a fact I could have gotten that. So I think one of the biggest learning lessons for me would have been to just start earlier, be a bit more ambitious with the community, be a little bit more involved with the community from an earlier stage. And I think not only because of the legacy I come from, but because of the work I've done is why I even got as far as I did. But genuinely starting earlier in a campaign would be the number one thing that I would do differently.
How much is and was money a factor in the election?
In what sense?
Well, I mean, I guess I triangulate just about every project on three things: time, money, and ambition. You need, if you have two of those, you arguably don't need much of the third.
Yeah.
So if you got time and ambition, then you probably don't need much money. Mm-hmm. If you have money and ambition, you don't need much time. In this particular case, you say you didn't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
Or at least you chose not to utilize it. I'm just saying, did you find that if you had more access to funds, that would have helped? How much do you feel money factors into campaigns now?
Honestly, yeah, I'm just going to be completely transparent and real about this. Money has its respective role, and that's mainly for your main events. Mm-hmm. But I, as an individual, whether that played a factor or a detriment in my own success or not, I never had a lot of persons coming up to me asking me for this or for that or any kind of things that what you would expect during a campaign cycle. Now, I will say, Whether that is based on the reputation of my father or not, I have no clue. I just never personally experienced it.
Right.
So money didn't have a factor to play in that. It more so played a factor in my public events. Honestly, like politicking or politricking, as some people call it, is really more so of a matter of time and energy. It's how much are you willing to give that I personally feel makes a difference. What I would say is that where the money genuinely comes into things is when, and it happened probably a lot more this election cycle than it had for many others, that moving suitcase started to roll around within the last 2 weeks. It's the unfortunate thing about how we deal with politics in this country is that everybody wants change, but no one wants to be the agent of it. No one wants to participate in that. So when it comes to election day, unfortunately, individuals forget their brains. They'll take and I hate to say it this way, but we're going to call it for what it is. I really have nothing to lose in that regard. The cost of some person's vote is a pack of cigarettes or a six-pack. And that is that's just the saddest thing to me. It's like, you've lived your life this way up until this extent, and then you complain about it for 3.5 years. But when the cycle comes around for you to change that, you still don't change it. In my eyes, you've lost the right to complain. You can't sell something as important as your vote for what, $12.50 at the most. Like, that's just kind of where we reach. So I have noticed that over the time, is that's really where the money factor comes around. If I had one real request that could hopefully be, and I remember you asked me during the election cycle if I had a magic wand. My real magic wand now would be that people would actually change their voting habits. Stop voting for the individual that comes and offers you a six-pack or a pack of cigarettes or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be those two things. Start voting on the integrity and the character of the individual. Start voting on what they're bringing. Because besides focusing on my own race, I got an opportunity to listen to a lot of individuals. And the funny part is, the more experienced the individual was, they sounded great off rip. But if you just dove just a little bit into what they were saying, you would know that they were basically telling you, hey, listen, I'm here to do X, Y, and Z, and I'm not changing the status quo past this point. We need to get to that point where you are willing as an individual, as a voter, to dig a little bit deeper, more so than just the grandiose statements of the platform or just whatever sounds nice. We have to be a lot more politically involved. One of the things I think I want to, I know I'm going to be doing over the next 3 years and change is I want to start doing a lot more drives to get individuals registered, in particular a lot more younger persons, because the fact of the matter is we had over 4,000 persons between the ages of 18 to 24 that were not registered. That is a massive shift in dynamic of any political landscape across the country. We might have actually got a lot more of what we were looking for. And I'm not saying that from a CIMP's perspective. I'm saying that as a voter myself that wants to see genuine and earnest change in the country. So that is something I'm definitely going to be pushing over the next
I have a friend who would probably say that all those young voters, or the majority, came out because they wanted to vote in the referendum for marijuana.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt it. Honest to God, I really wouldn't.
Oh, okay. But, from the money standpoint, I mean, do you not see that, going around and spreading out this joy tends to work? Because if it's a case, for example, you talked earlier about persons knocking at the door. Well, if you're able to offer T-shirts and fresh pair of kicks for people who come out and knock on the doors, you probably get more people. And this is where, I'm sure you probably heard me in the program here before, chatting and get a little bit about some of the election reform, because it's very difficult to remove the fact from the money. I mean, in fairness to even all the other candidates running, the CINP and the TCCP would have had neon lights on the side of the road for months. And, I mean, how much does that cost every day? Well, a couple $100 every day per sign.
I'm not the logistics man for that, but I can tell you it did cost a little bit.
It cost a pretty penny.
Well, to Ellio's point earlier on, that perhaps one of the reasons, if not the motivating reason for the young people turning out to vote, was to participate in the referendum vote. Because when we looked at the election numbers, there were still, and this is I think, carry forward from 2021, where despite the largest number of registered voters being eligible and participating in a general election, the majority of those persons participated in the referendum and did not participate in the actual election itself of candidates. I think of places, I think I made a note here, there were places like, hang on, where were we? I'll tell you, where Joey Hugh ran. What was that?
Georgetown North.
Georgetown North, the number of voters turned out to be the lowest turnout of voters of all the 19 constituencies, but there were a few other constituencies that still had very low voter turnout. And I wonder, when you talk about, getting out earlier and arguably speaking to the next crop of 18 to 21-year-olds, will you be encouraging, because I think this is hugely important, particularly in the Gen Zers, is that those in your generation and the one behind you are seeing less and less value in the prospect of participating in the voting process, in democracy. Is that a message that you will hope to change through personal experience or otherwise in the 3 years or so that you've been given?
For sure. And I'll phrase it like this. Whether they vote for an individual or not, they're already casting their vote, because they're saying that if they're not going to vote for something different, they're fine with the same. But the same thing is what's been shafting them from the time that they were a child. So it almost sounds negligent, but that's just how the new generation operates, in a sense where, well, am I going to stick with something that I know, or am I going to change it for something that I'm not too sure about? The fact of the matter is that once you get the old aristocracy out of the way and you put someone in for 4 years, you're going to have an opportunity either halfway through that or at the end of 4 years to put someone else new in. If you're not constantly willing to evolve, much like a lobster, that's the only way it grows. All you're going to get stuck is with the same thing that you've been getting for 20, 30, 40 years. The fact of the matter is we have a proven track record of what that looks like. So give somebody new a chance. They may surprise you. Now, you can easily tell when someone is here for the money or here for the people. It just takes a little bit of looking into it. But constant and consistent evolution, I think, is the key of how we're going to continue to advance Cayman politics to where we bring ourselves to the value of a first world stage. Cayman from the private sector perspective is leaps and bounds ahead of our political perspective. And it's about time that we get our political perspective at least on par with our private sector perspective, because we are an entity now that is not just solidly global. We are here. We're not a place that time forgot anymore. So if we keep trying to run a modern day machine with old techniques, you're going to break it at some point in time, or at the very least bankrupt it. That's just how I view things here. We have made tremendous leaps and bounds over past 20, 25 years, and there's still many more to go. It's the country, and I might be putting my foot in my mouth saying this, but I am a firm believer that.
Well, don't stop now, Jordan.
I know, but I don't think the country is going to sink off of one bad new choice. You have 18 other persons now that are accountable for that, so you can really place your bets on who caused what. And this may be a bit premature, but I have a lot of faith in this government, even the persons that I went against. I want to see what they have to do, because at the end of the day, whether you do good or not, it's completely on you, buddy. And if you slip up, I'm here waiting on you. It's as simple as that.
Outstanding. We do have a audio note from WhatsApp from the listening audience. Let's hear what's on our listeners' minds.
Good evening, gentlemen, and good evening, a special good evening to Mr. Rivers. He was, of course, very, very impressive during the campaign, and there's no doubt that he has learned some things, which I do hope, quite frankly, that he should run again. But once you have run for office, in my view, you are already a leader, and certain questions we can put to you. I want to put to you a question regarding the judiciary. Mm-hmm. You see, in the judiciary, it has been decided that rollover is not going to apply in the judiciary because that might interfere with the independence of the judiciary. Now, I think, to be frank with you, that is totally ridiculous. In any country where you want to localize certain positions, you make sure that all expatriates who come are on contract, so that after 3-4 years, you can see whether you've got some of your own people to step into those roles. So in my view, what the government has done in terms of that policy, they have basically decided that they do not want Caymanians to have any openings in the judiciary. So this thing where you are being judged by people who don't come from your society has now been finally entrenched, in my view. I would like to find out what your view is on that and how you think that that can be changed. Thank you very much. You have a nice day.
Indeed. Thank you very much for those comments. Well, I think, you spoke to it earlier on by making the assertion in support of your friend and former colleague, and still colleague, the Minister of Labor, Michael Miles, in that he and the members that make up the National Coalition for Caymanian Government are, quote unquote, in your words, following the CINP playbook, suggesting that these efforts, these lofty ambitions, if you will, whether lofty, naive, depending on what word you want to attach to it, from the Minister Michael Miles, is lending itself to work in that direction. Would you disagree?
So, now I will tell you, funny enough, from my recollection of the campaign trail, we did not discuss the judiciary aspect of that. Based on the statements of Mr. Samamba, furthermore, actually, big up yourself, Mr. Balika, because I love listening to you from back in the day. I will say this much. I don't feel like any agency...
Politician.
See that?
Just winning a vote,
He learned a lot.
You want to know how you know it's genuine?
Despite the critics in the audience who think,
It's not worth a vote for me to say that.
Well done for you, man. Good for you.
But if he not vote, you might be, he's influencing a vote.
Right, and you can always use more lawyers on your side.
Well done, Mr. Rivers. Continue.
Yeah. I will say that I am in complete agreement based on his statements currently, because I haven't looked at it myself. But I don't think that any sector of our government, whether judiciary, legal, whatever you want to look at it as, should be exempt from this stuff. If we're going to go down a path, we need to go down a path. You can even chalk it up to, and this is not necessarily talked about in the scene of, but why you have more foreign officers in the RCIPS versus actual Caymanians. But if you talk on a local level, they will say, like, well, our biggest concern is that if we have local officers, then they're going to know the criminals. They're going to do garbage. Absolute garbage. Because when persons...
The same argument can be made for the otherwise very wide demographic of population we have here in the Cayman Islands. We have a huge, other Caribbean island population, and if that argument is true for us, then arguably you're saying, or somebody's saying, that they have favoritism, if you will.
You are correct.
For the nationalities that do live here.
You are correct, and that doesn't simply extend to just the police force.
I think my colleague has one or two opinions in that regard, but he's gonna hold it to himself for now.
And I may touch on it just so he can jump in on it if he wants. But what I will say is that we've seen that in our education system as well too.
Careful how you tempt that tiger.
I know what
he really wants out of the cage anyway.
Trust me, I know. But the fact of the matter is that it wasn't other nationalities that built this country. It was us. And long before England decided to step back in and create dominance or control over this, we were doing a pretty damn good job ourselves. The fact of the matter is that the Caymanians are completely capable and competent of running these areas. We just don't have enough of ourselves inside of there. Granted, we have made more Caymanians over time, and whatever we identify a Caymanian as is left to conjecture at this point in time. But one thing I can say, a Caymanian that is willing to apply themselves will be successful in this country. That is the overall end goal of what I'm seeing that we're trying to accomplish. If there is a space for you to be filled, you will be filling it, which is why I'm very happy with these very, as you would call them, very aggressive approaches to labor and immigration, because we're now in the attempt of taking Cayman back for Caymanians. I'm not going to sit here and promise you that every role is going to be filled by every Caymanian. That's ludicrous for me to say that. But if there's a Caymanian that wants to work hard and get in that role, it should be there for them.
Well, as far as the judiciary is concerned, I'm not, speaking of the policing law enforcement side, but there are by far more lawyers studying law today than there are lawyers practicing law today. But also, we have seen a vast improvement of Caymanian lawyers who have finished law school, called to the bar, have taken their articles and are working within the legal fraternity, being elevated to the level of senior levels and partner. So to Mr. Samamba's point, theoretically, there's no good reason or a good excuse why some of those Caymanian lawyers today cannot find their way to the the judge's robes in some future period. Somebody will have to tell me, what other reason they have for overlooking those Caymanians in time. But time is what we don't have any more of. It's 27 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock. And unless my colleague and friend has a question or comment that is burning that he wants to ask, I would seek to encourage and invite an opportunity for some closing remarks from you, Mr. Rivers.
I'm just going to jump into, in the spirit of transparency, and I think it's beneficial for yourself to again stress that we on this forum want to invite all of the persons who ran and those who were unsuccessful, and that would include some of your lesser and arguably less experienced opponents. So I'm sure that you don't have an issue with that.
Not one bit.
Not like the policy that we hear that's floating around. And I just wanted to publicly have you confirm that that's the case, because I might even be teasing you to see if you have their information details or contact details before you leave the studio.
I can sort you with that off air if you.
But I greatly appreciate that, Jordan, and that speaks volumes. And I hope the public sees that speaks volumes for what you've just said. Closing remarks.
So what I will say, and I had a lot of contemplations about whether I was going to say this before I got here. Under good counsel, once again, I said it was about time I did it. So next steps for me is that I'm going to continue to be inside the public eye. I'm going to continue to be active, whether that's with the government or not. Doesn't matter to me. I'm still doing me. The biggest argument that my opponents had on various wavelengths was that I neither had experience nor the degrees to back my professionalism or my ability to run this country. I did my best to combat that. So the next time I'll be running, I'll be 32 years old, so age is no longer a factor in whether I'm capable enough to do this or not. And currently now, I can say this openly because I have been accepted, I'll be attending the Truman Bodden Law School.
All right.
LLB.
Outstanding. Congratulations. Well, if not politics, maybe a judge's robe in your future.
we can chat the chat.
All right. Well, Jordan Rivers, we want to thank you very much for being our guest here on the program today. And to the listening audience, hope you enjoyed our conversation in the most part. But that's all the time we have. Good night, Cayman. See you tomorrow.
The home of the BBC World Service, the most trusted news source in the world. This is Global 103.1.